Good Tuesday afternoon to you. It's 4 o'clock. Time for Sports4CLE. Thanks for joining us. A little later in the show, Kinnamon will join us. Talking Browns. Casey from Dawg Pound Daily. We begin by talking Browns and just some tough news. The Browns confirm that Michael Woods has in fact suffered a torn Achilles that will require surgery. He's likely to miss the entire season. He was working out in the offseason with Deshaun Watson when he tore that Achilles. And Michael Woods tweets, "Odds will never define the kid." So a tough break for one of the Browns' young wide receivers who flashed a little bit, was injured and didn't get to do a whole lot last year. When he was on the field, he did some good things. Let's welcome in Kay Cabot. And Mary Kay, it's the kind of thing you hate to see, out trying to work on his craft, develop some timing, and has an injury that's going to cause him to miss the entire season.
Yeah, really, really unfortunate. You know, last season, when you look back to training camp last year, Michael Woods was the hottest young receiver in camp when he suffered a very serious hamstring injury. It really knocked him back, and it prevented him from having a really nice rookie season. He only caught 5 passes for 45 yards last season. He was ready for much, much more than that. He was displaying an uncanny natural ability to play this game. And so that was really unfortunate. And the Browns were very excited about what he was going to bring to the table this year. And now this happened. So very, very unfortunate for Michael. And now he's going to have to work his way back after surgery and just try to make a big, strong comeback for 2024.
Yeah, and again, you hate to see that, especially with a young guy who's just trying to improve his craft. Some more news. Another guy named Woods. Browns hosting former Seahawks defensive tackle Al Woods on a free agent visit this week. And Woods is a guy, not a huge name, but a solid defensive tackle. 7.8% pressure rate, right at league average among qualified defensive tackles. 15% sack conversion rate, but more of a run stuffer. Really, you could say he's a top 20 guy against the run since 2018. It'll be his 13th season in the league this upcoming year. So he's 36, 78 starts. Mary Kay, this is a guy that the Browns know if he decides to sign here, he can give them quality NFL snaps at defensive tackle, something they're looking for.
Yeah, that's a lot of starts under his belt and, a lot of experience. He's a very, very solid defensive tackle, and he would pair very nicely with Dalvin Tomlinson. That would give them two such incredibly experienced guys in there to really bottle up that middle and then let those edge guys do their thing. So I really think, it's something they will seriously try to do. You don't really bring a guy in like this at this point in free agency unless you're serious about signing him generally. So I think they'll probably try to wrap him up, get that done, and be pretty well set at defensive tackle.
Yeah, and, guys like that give the ability for younger guys like a Perion Winfrey, even like a Jordan Elliott, to develop at their pace as long as they're showing progress. They're not forced into, we need you for 40 snaps a game.
Yeah, they've got a lot of young guys that are still trying to come up the learning curve. And if you look at the Pro Football Focus rankings for Jordan Elliott, Perion Winfrey, Tommy Togiai, they just really weren't very good last year. They're down in the 120 range, most of them. And you want your guys to be, in the top 20, top 25, maybe top 30 in some instances. But down in the 120s, that's really not going to cut it. Now, you have to take some of those rankings with a grain of salt, especially on the offensive and defensive lines. But certainly they need better defensive tackle play. I'm sure that they got some really good input from Jim Schwartz, who is a defensive line specialist. And he's getting the kind of guys that he wants in there now. Now,
I know you've addressed this in your Hey Mary Kay. As it stands now, do you think they have enough on the defensive line if they can get, Al Woods? Does that, or do you think they need maybe even a little bit more?
I think they still need a little bit more. I would go out and get one more good edge rusher. I really think they need another edge rusher. And if they don't end up signing one or trading for one, then I think that's a position that they should seriously and strongly look at in the draft with number 74, number 98, somewhere along those lines. They should bring in another rusher. Now, they expect Alex Wright to pick it up in that department, but he had no sacks and only 12 pressures last year. Once again, that's not enough production from your number 3 edge. So they're pretty well set at number 1 and number 2 right now. Competition for number 3.
Again, from another one of your Hey Mary Kays, how much better do you think the Browns defense will be with all the new players and with Jim Schwartz? And is there going to be a little bit of a learning curve there, do you think?
Yeah, there'll be a learning curve because there's so many new guys. There's new terminology, new defensive coordinator, and you have to see how all the pieces and the parts fit together. It doesn't necessarily operate like a well-oiled machine in week 1. So it might take them a little while to hit their stride, but Jim Schwartz is so experienced that he should have these guys up and running and playing cohesive, good defense somewhere around mid-season, I would think, with some flashes of excellence before then. But it will take a little while for everyone to really understand their role.
Jim Schwartz is a guy who historically has liked to rotate in a lot of guys, kind of keep guys fresh. Do you see that? Is that the method behind, do you think, acquiring all of the new pieces in addition to the young guys that you had?
Yeah, I think so. That's part of it. And that's another reason why I still think that they will add some edge rushers, because they don't have enough right now, especially if you're not sure what Alex Wright is going to be able to bring to the table. So they do need to add 1 or 2 more guys there. But certainly now at the defensive tackle position, when you factor in that they signed as free agents Tristan Hill and Maurice Hurst, they really have some bodies for that room now. And as far as Tristan Hill and Maurice Hurst are concerned, those guys are not just throwaway camp bodies. These are guys that will come in here and compete and try to become part of the rotation.
Let's talk a little bit about Delvin Tomlinson. Do you think he can be a guy that helps the development of Perrion Winfrey?
Oh, I think so. I definitely think so. He's got a great demeanor. He's got great character. He's a leader. He's just, one of those guys that is the salt of the earth, and he's going to really set the tone for that room and for what those guys need to do to be professional. So I think he will help Perrion a lot. I think he'll help everybody in that room. Again, tons of starting experience and just one of those really great guys.
Is there something to a guy that's been a veteran that can kind of pull aside a younger player? You know they're going to get coaching from Jim Schwartz. How important is it to have like a guy that is successful, plays your position, that wants to kind of mentor you? Does that stuff go on in the NFL?
Oh, absolutely, yes. It's vitally important. And when you're setting up your rooms, and I saw someone somewhere along the line say, why does everybody call it rooms now? That's just sort of the vernacular these days. You talk about the wide receiver room and the defensive tackle or the defensive line room. It's just how you talk about it. But when you do set up a room, you want to make sure that you have some experienced veterans. You want to have some young guys. You want to have some personality. You want to have some guys that are, maybe a little tough-nosed, maybe some that are a little quiet. And you do the best you can to kind of get a good mix of chemistry in the room. And that's also why I think the receiver room will be a little bit different this year too, because generally those guys, are pretty quiet. But Elijah Moore brings a little something to the room. And they'll have a little bit of a different energy in there this year.
Mary Kay Cabot, Browns beat reporter for the Plain Dealer, cleveland.com, and I are going to step aside, take a quick timeout. Other side of the break, we'll head to the voicemail of Truth and Reason, talk a little bit more about the offense. Sports4CLE, talking Browns. Stay with us.
Come back to go forward. Back to learning new things. Back to pursuing your dreams. Tri-C has flexible learning options to fit your life. And every year, more than 1,000 local companies provide Tri-C students with real-world learning. The right education can boost your lifetime earning power by hundreds of thousands of dollars. Start now with a college education you can afford. Tri-C, where futures begin.
The Great Lakes Collectors Convention, presented by Greenie Sports Cards, takes over the Fieldhouse in Independence, Ohio, where the passions of sports fans, collectors, and sports talk enthusiasts collide. 50,000 square feet of ball card bliss. Hundreds of display tables. Card Shop Live Theater with interactive appearances from the region's most notable sports media. Great cards, great location, great show. Tickets on sale now at greeniesportscards.com.
The Ohio Lottery Partners in Education program recognizes role model students and teachers from across Ohio. Nominations can now be done completely online. To nominate a deserving teacher or student, go to ohiolottery.com. In the About section, find Partners in Education. There you will find links to the nomination forms. Students kindergarten through 12th grade can be academic all-stars. Teachers can be honored as a Teacher of the Month. The Ohio Lottery Partners in Education, where stars shine. We continue talking Browns with Mary Kay Cabot, Browns beat reporter for the Plain Dealer and cleveland.com. Let's head to the voicemail of Truth and Reason.
Hey, this is John from Sandusky. I appreciate your show. I was watching Quincy Carrier, and he was speaking about the depth of the running back room that we have as Browns. I just want to know, since we have less running backs than we used to have, because the offense is changing, is there a place for John Kelly, the guy that's on our practice squad? I just looked at his films. He's shifty. His films don't say that he can catch the ball, but he runs like Kareem Hunt used to. That's all I have to ask. Thank you for your time. You have a great day.
As always, appreciate all of the voicemails. Mary Kay, what about it? John Kelly, that's a guy when preseason looked like he could run the football when he was given an opportunity.
Yeah, I mean, he's somebody that they like. They kept him around, and he's, someone that, once again, he's more of a developmental back, but there's a good chance that he'll be here this year. And, he might have to toil away on the practice squad again, but, if there's an opening or if there's a chance for him to get called up, then, he could be right there. So, he's right there in the thick of it. And, I really don't see Kareem Hunt coming back, although I was told over the weekend, someone mentioned that, the door is always open for guys like that, depending on what possibly happens with their market. And, so I do see some of the younger guys making a difference.
Do you think they look potentially to the draft for a running back, or is there another? Right now, it looks like you know what you have in Nick Chubb, obviously, and they like Jerome Ford. Do they add somebody via draft or a veteran free agent that does something a little different? I don't know, somebody that's more of a scat back, kind of catch the ball and run?
Well, the thing about running backs is that you can find them. You can find them late in free agency. You can find them in the trade market. You can find them on other teams' practice squads, and you can find them in the draft. It's not like trying to find a quarterback or an edge rusher or another premium position where it's very, very difficult to find a really good one. You can, not that they're a dime a dozen, but you can find good running backs in a lot of places. So yeah, I would say that they'll look everywhere, and they probably will end up adding to the pile.
Again, I know you've addressed this in a Hey Mary Kay. What do you think Nick Chubb's role will be? Will it be as big as usual with Deshaun Watson at quarterback, or do you think they kind of move to more of a throwing offense?
I think that, because of the weather here in Cleveland and because of the way that Kevin Stefanski has always operated his offense, I still think that Nick Chubb will be a very, very important part of this offense. In fact, we asked Kevin Stefanski that at the owners' meetings last week, and he said that very thing, that absolutely he's a key part of our offense, and he always will be. So I don't think anybody has anything to worry about in terms of Nick Chubb not getting his, almost probably 1,500 yards again, or, not making an enormous impact, because I think he will do that.
Again, I know you've addressed this. Do you think Deshaun Watson returns to that elite level of play that he did before he missed a couple of years due to the suspension and all that mess?
I think he will now, in part because they added 3 really good pass catchers to the football team. And before they added those 3 guys, I had my doubts about, how this might shake out. I think he needed more experience. I think he needed more speed. And now he's got a number of different elements that he didn't have before. Elijah Moore and Marquise Goodwin bring that element of speed. Marquise as the vertical stretch guy, Elijah more as the all over the field, nickel guy outside, you name it, can, be that shifty, fast, speedy, agile receiver. And then they added tight end Jordan Akins, who brings, just size, a big bodied wide receiver who is basically, a tight end that doubles as a receiver. So because he has those three new guys, and then he also has Amari Cooper, Donovan Peoples-Jones, David Njoku, David Bell, I do think that he has an opportunity this year to return to that elite form.
You mentioned you were at the owners' meeting, and I know you had a chance to interview a couple of people. Do you get the sense that Jimmy Haslam and the Browns would do that Deshaun Watson trade again? That they didn't really know what they were going to have to go through. They went through it, and now they're ready to get out on the other end of it. Would they do that all over again? Do you think, if it was in front of them?
Yes, they would absolutely do that all over again. They're very excited about what he's going to do this year. I think they kind of looked at last year, even though they were very, very disappointed in the record. They looked at it as a little bit of a wash, and knowing that it was going to be very, very difficult to make the playoffs under those conditions. But they're just as excited as they were the day that they got him. But having said that, I do think that there is a little bit of pressure. I think Jimmy Haslam made it very clear at those owners' meetings that he expects this team to make the playoffs in 2023. He refused to put any kind of an ultimatum on it, but I think the message is pretty clear.
Yeah, and you know what? I think that's fair, and I think the fact that he wouldn't put an ultimatum might show that he's kind of progressing as an owner as well.
Yeah. And, he knows how his words do become headlines. I've asked him in the past. I asked him one time about, would you blow it up this year if it didn't work out the way you wanted it to? And he stated unequivocally that he wouldn't. And then he did. So he knows now not to make those bold proclamations in the offseason. You never know how things are going to go. There can be extenuating circumstances, of course. You can't say yay or nay on anything, because what if Deshaun Watson gets hurt and misses 10 games? You just really don't know. So I think they'll take the season as its own entity and then plan accordingly.
When you look at this roster, as they're getting ready for what they expect to be a playoff team, what areas do you think they need to bolster on the roster?
Well, one of them they're in the process of maybe doing this week already, and that's defensive tackle. I still thought they needed to do that. I still think that they need to add that defensive end. Knowing that they've got some linebackers that are coming off of very serious injuries, I don't think it could hurt to just have a real good, healthy linebacker that they know can play multiple positions and help them out if need be. And then, of course, now they have to probably look a little bit at another receiver, because I think Mike was ready to step up a little bit and get a little bit more playing time this year, Mike Woods. So I think that's an area they will look at.
Do you kind of get the sense this, and I don't want to ever say that Andrew Berry is done upgrading, but do you get a sense that they feel like they've improved the roster in some areas that pretty much needed to be improved?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Now I think they're up to, I think it's 12 free agents that they've signed. And if they sign Al Woods, that would make it 13. And so, yes, I do think that, especially right now on the defensive line, they've added a lot of bodies there. And Jim Schwartz has a lot more to work with than he did before. And as we mentioned, 3 pass catchers, that's a lot. That represents to me basically an overhaul of the receiver room. When you add those 3 guys, these guys are going to make an impact this year. And when you go to 2 tight ends, there's going to be plenty of times where it's David Njoku and Jordan Akins. So, that's going to be something there. And then you just kind of have to look at Elijah Moore. Is he going to take a bunch of reps away from David Bell? Will David Bell be able to step up to the plate and plant his flag and make sure he still gets his? So there will be a lot to look at this spring and summer.
Mary Kay Cabot, Browns beat reporter for the Plain Dealer, cleveland.com, and I are going to step aside, take one more timeout. Other side of the break, we'll look at what Andrew Berry might be doing relative to adding to the roster. Sports for CLE will be right back. Stay with us.
Come back to go forward. Back to learning new things. Back to pursuing your dreams. Tri-C has flexible learning options to fit your life. And every year, more than 1,000 local companies provide Tri-C students with real-world learning. The right education can boost your lifetime earning power by hundreds of thousands of dollars. Start now with a college education you can afford. Tri-C, where futures begin.
The Ohio Lottery Partners in Education program recognizes role model students and teachers from across Ohio. Nominations can now be done completely online. To nominate a deserving teacher or student, go to ohiolottery.com. In the About section, find Partners in Education. There you will find links to the nomination forms. Students kindergarten through 12th grade can be academic all-stars. Teachers can be honored as a Teacher of the Month. The Ohio Lottery Partners in Education, where stars shine.
The Greater Cleveland Sports Hall of Fame celebrates the star athletes and notable sports figures who were born or have made their home in Greater Cleveland. It tells the story of discipline, commitment, perseverance, sportsmanship, and excellence in achievement. It encourages and inspires those who believe in sport and its direct impact on the well-being of our community. Go to clevelandsportshall.com or follow us on Twitter at GCLE Sports HOF for more details.
We continue talking Browns with Mary Kay Cabot, Browns beat reporter for Plain Dealer and cleveland.com. Mary Kay, we've talked about you being at the owners meeting. What was the biggest takeaway? I know you talked to the Haslams, you talked to Andrew Berry, you talked to Kevin Stefanski. It's the first time we've gotten to talk to him in a little bit. What was the takeaway from those owners meetings?
You know, each one of those, groups of people that we talked to, we had takeaways from every single one of them. I think with Kevin Stefanski, one of the biggest takeaways that I got out of it was that, he really is going to put a lot on Deshaun Watson's plate, and he's going to take under advisement what Deshaun Watson wants to run in this offense, that he is going to give him a lot of say at the line of scrimmage and during the week and in the offseason. To kind of make this thing his own and let him figure out how to own this offense. So that was from him. And then Andrew Berry, he's not done yet. He's still working on trying to hone and shape this roster. It's still early. He still has the whole draft. He still has some free agency left. He's got trades. So, anything can still happen at this point. And then from the Haslams, we talked stadium to them for a while, and that all was interesting. But in my mind, the biggest takeaway again from them was just the notion that, this is a year of high expectations, and that everybody is on the same page thinking that this has got to be a postseason year.
How anxious do you think Kevin Stefanski and Andrew Berry are to have a quote-unquote normal mini camp, training camp? I mean, if you think about it, it was 2 years of COVID protocols, a year of not uncertainty with Deshaun. How anxious do you think they just want to go and be able to get ready for the season?
Well, the minute you say normal about a season, the minute it's no longer normal, right? So you probably just jinxed them. No, I'm kidding. But, you never know what's going to happen. You never know. I mean, on September 25th of last year, did we think that Myles Garrett was going to flip his Porsche multiple times and almost not make it? You just never know what can happen, especially when you're dealing with 90 different players. I mean, look at just yesterday, Michael Woods ruptured an Achilles. Now, fortunately for them, and for Michael, fortunately, this wasn't a situation where Michael was going to be called upon to shift the balance of power in the AFC North this year. He's a developing young player, so it wasn't necessarily catastrophic to the plan. But in any given moment, anything can happen. But you're right. It should be kind of quiet. Now, they will be breaking in a new defensive coordinator and a new special teams coordinator. So it's not going to just be, the way that it was last year. but they definitely will hope to have a little bit more of a calmer offseason.
Yeah, football changes are good changes, I guess, when it's been the other things that have been affecting. This is from CBS Sports, kind of interesting, projecting 6 new playoff teams. They say the Broncos, Browns, Jets, Lions, Packers, and Panthers. So they project the Browns to be a playoff team this year. While Watson was rusty and erratic coming off the suspension, he'll enter 2023. Full season of prep in Stefanski's system, not to mention improved receiving core featuring Elijah Moore opposite Amari Cooper. Again, I think all those are fair. I think they had to tweak the system. It wasn't built around Deshaun Watson, and all those things matter.
Yeah, absolutely. They are going to have a different offense this year. They're really going to work at making sure that they are getting the most out of Deshaun Watson. I think that's going to be the number one thing for Kevin Stefanski, is to make sure that he is bringing out the best in Deshaun Watson and making sure that he can maximize his talents and abilities and then elevate the play of everyone around him. So I think that is vitally important. But certainly this should be a playoff team. And I'll tell you what, if Lamar Jackson is not back in Baltimore and they're in sort of regroup mode at quarterback, that also can open the door for a playoff spot, maybe even pave the way for an AFC North title this year. So anything can happen.
When you look at just the offense with Deshaun Watson, do you expect them to throw the ball? I would expect to throw the ball more. I don't know that you're going to throw it 50 times. But don't you think when you have a quarterback you feel is elite, you use them?
Yeah. I mean, you're going to play to your strengths, whatever those strengths are. And you'll play to the matchups, right? I mean, you'll play to the game plan. If there's a team, if the weather's going to be bad, that factors in. If you're playing a team that's horrible against the run and you've got Nick Chubb, that will factor in. So, you can't honestly just say, oh, this is what's going to happen with this offense on any given week. They will be very multiple. They'll try a lot of different looks. They'll do different things. They're not going to just be in a base offense all the time. Sometimes they'll be in 3 wide. Sometimes they'll be in 4. Sometimes they'll be in 3 tight ends like they've been in the past. So, you'll see all different kinds of things. And I think it will be a sight to behold, but it's going to take them a little while to kind of pull it together and make sure it all works right.
All right, before I let you go, let's take a look. The Ravens have reportedly offered Odell Beckham Jr. A contract, according to Adam Schefter. Jets, Ravens in the mix along with the Rams. There were reports that he was looking for a 1-year, $15 million contract, and those are not substantiated or confirmed, but that was a number that was put out there. What are just your thoughts on first of all, if you get Lamar Jackson back and you give him Odell Beckham Jr., that makes him better.
Yeah, it certainly does make them better, but I think it would be hard for Odell to commit to that job right now when he doesn't know what's happening with Lamar Jackson. I think you have to know who your quarterback is going to be. He doesn't want to get into another situation like he was here, where it was just horrible between him and Baker Mayfield. So I really think that he needs to kind of have that figured out before he can make that decision. But I will say it was kind of cool to run into him at the owners' meetings. I got an opportunity to congratulate him on the baby, and it was just good to see him. It was fun to cover him when he was here. And it was nice to catch up for a second.
Yeah, and you know what? It didn't end well. It didn't go well, but his teammates loved him, and there's something about that. You can't hide in a locker room, so he must be a pretty good guy.
Oh, yeah, his teammates loved him for sure. I mean, they were devastated when he left, and it really splintered the locker room because a lot of players were angry at Baker Mayfield after that and how he handled that whole situation. And so it did leave some hard feelings. And one thing that Odell does know for sure is that he would be welcomed back with open arms if it did ever happen.
Mary Kay Cabot, Browns beat reporter for the Plain Dealer, cleveland.com. As always, thanks so much for the time and the insight. Appreciate it very much, Mary Kay.
Sure. Thanks for having me.
Mary Kay Cabot, make sure you check her out, cleveland.com, as well as the pages of the Plain Dealer. Great Browns coverage. We're going to step aside, take a quick time out. We continue talking Browns. Casey Kinnamon from Dog Pound Daily, Sports4CLE. We'll be right back. Stay with us.
Come back to go forward. Back to learning new things. Back to pursuing your dreams. Tri-C has flexible learning options to fit your life. And every year, more than 1,000 local companies provide Tri-C students with real-world learning. The right education can boost your lifetime earning power by hundreds of thousands of dollars. Start now with a college education you can afford. Tri-C, where futures begin.
The Ohio Lottery Partners in Education program recognizes role model students and teachers from across Ohio. Nominations can now be done completely online. To nominate a deserving teacher or student, go to ohiolottery.com. In the About section, find Partners in Education. There you will find links to the nomination forms. Students kindergarten through 12th grade can be academic all-stars. Teachers can be honored as a Teacher of the Month. The Ohio Lottery Partners in Education, where stars shine.
I am powerful beyond my wildest imagination.
I will define my future.
I will keep challenging myself to improve.
Because I am a future leader of this great nation.
I will be responsible for raising a beautiful family.
And educating not only my generation, but many more to come.
I will make a difference in my community.
And I will stand up for what I believe in.
I will not settle for simply chasing my dreams, I will achieve them.
Because I was given a chance.
An opportunity.
A home.
At Family, Career, and Community Leaders of America.
The ultimate leadership experience.
FCCLA has been one of the greatest experiences of my life.
It's made me who I am today.
Join us. We'll build a new future together.
We continue talking Browns here on Sports4CLE. So word comes out that the Browns have hosted a couple of more draft-eligible players, a couple of wide receivers. So they hosted Tank Dell from Houston, and they're expected to host wide receiver Jalen Hyatt from Tennessee, according to league sources. So, Casey, let's welcome in Casey Kinnamon, Dog Pound Daily. Casey, when you look at that, again, gives you an idea of just some of the thought process when you bring in a guy that's draft eligible. You want to get to know him because you're intrigued. When you look at those two guys, just your thoughts on Tank Dell and Jalen Hyatt.
Well, out of the two, I prefer Jalen Hyatt. If you look at the total package, he's 21 years old. He's a little bigger than Tank Dell. You got 6 foot 175, a really good vertical threat, really good ball skills, and someone that you can see implement into an NFL offense quite easily. Even though the offense he played in Tennessee was anything but, he has the prerequisite skills that you can see a future path of success. I like Tank Dell's game. I just can't envision the Browns using a day 2 pick on him, and he's going to be picked somewhere in that range. He's just an extreme outlier. I like his game a great deal. He gets open easily, but he's 23 years old, and I know he weighed 165 at the combine. But in all reality, you're probably looking at a player that probably plays closer to 155 to 160. But I would also keep in mind when you see the Browns bring these players in for these top 30 visits, a lot of these players they're going to bring in are going to be guys they have no shot to get in the draft. But they're doing it to establish relationships because you never know what's going to happen down the line. These guys all have skill sets that the Browns like. They just kind of want to, get that pathway open. So you never know what's going to happen a year or two down the line. Just look at the Elijah Moore trade. Establishing these relationships in the league, it's huge because you never know what's going to happen. So the Browns want to get to know as many talented players as possible, and I think that's the right way to do business.
So let's, along those lines, talented players, take a look. Tyreek Hill at a signing event, and listen to what he tells a fan here. So the guy was wearing a Deshaun Watson jersey, tried to get him to sign a Tyreek Hill jersey, and he said he tried to get to go to the Browns. So again, it's just interesting. I bet you Deshaun Watson would love to have Tyreek Hill on the same side of the field as him.
Yeah, absolutely. He's a phenomenal talent. I just think the people are looking at it thinking maybe the Browns blew a huge opportunity here. And I would just slow up everyone. Think of the timeline. The Tyreek Hill trade to the Dolphins happened 5 days after the Browns traded for Deshaun Watson. And I think everyone here knows exactly what the Browns gave up to get Watson. And then if you look what the Dolphins had to give up to get Hill, the Browns just did not have that kind of ammunition. And we're not even talking the money that he wanted. We're just talking, the Dolphins, I think, gave up a first and a second last year, 2 fourths and a sixth this year. The Browns simply didn't have that kind of ammunition, but it is a good thought, though, to get that kind of dynamic talent on the field.
And you know what? If he is saying that, that means the Browns were in the conversation. So you can be sure Andrew Berry did his due diligence and just decided it doesn't quite work the way it needs to.
Yeah, especially if they were eyeing that Watson thing. They had more pans in the fire. They had to make sure they got the quarterback first.
Without question. All right, this from an article that you wrote. 5 Browns wide receivers on the outside looking in. Number 5, Jalen Darden, a guy that Browns went out and got late last year, speed guy. Number 4, Mike Harley Jr. Has had some shades of success when given the opportunity. Number 3, Demetric Felton. Number 2, Michael Woods, who had that, we talked earlier, just a tough torn Achilles injury against him when he was working out a couple days ago with Deshaun Watson. And then number 1, Anthony Schwartz. Schwartz is a guy that he will get an opportunity because, he has skills that you can't coach, but he's got to start showing it on the field.
Yeah, it just hasn't clicked, That speed has kept him around this long. Combined with where they drafted him, I think that's a massive factor in it. But if the defenses don't have to respect your speed, then what good does it really do you? And with the addition of Marquise Goodwin, Elijah Moore, that injects that wide receiver room with more speed and usable speed. We've seen it in practice, which kind of puts Anthony on the outside looking in, unless a massive, unless he hits that switch this offseason and has got some more of the nuances of becoming an NFL wide receiver, namely catching the ball, then he's going to be on the outside looking in.
When you look at what the Browns have added, you added Moore, you added Goodwin. I don't think it's necessarily a matter of that's the profile of the wide receivers they're going to have moving forward. It was the profile of the wide receivers they didn't have in Donovan Peoples-Jones and Amari Cooper. Would you agree? Would you disagree? I think they added something to make that room more diverse and complete.
Yeah, they had to make it well-rounded. You need all types of different skill sets, especially at wide receiver. You can look at it a lot like a basketball team. You need everyone. You need that boundary guy that like DPJ is. You need the complete player that Amari is with route running. You need a pure speed guy. You have to have it in this league. You need a guy who can give you inside-outside versatility like Elijah Moore, And then you look what they already have invested. Since David Bell was the most recent, added player through the draft, he's going to get another opportunity. And then you have your kick returner / gadget guy and Jakeem Grant. Now, Grant's coming back off injury. Say something happens this offseason and he's not able to regain what he had. That opens the door for someone like Jalen Darden, because that's the exact same path he had to making this roster. But with Jakeem Grant already here, that puts Darden on the outside. So this article was just basically looking at the wide receiver room that they've constructed and the players who would have had a chance to make this roster had the trade for Moore and the signing of Goodwin not happened.
Huge upgrade, I think, in what they did with those two. And you know what? Throw Akins, the wide receiver, in there too. I think it's significantly and noticeably better.
Yeah, more dangerous. I mean, at point blank, you look at that, that's more dangerous. It's a very intriguing room now, as last year it was very top heavy. You had Cooper, you had DPJ, and then you had crossing your fingers from there on out. Well, now you have actionable pieces, and it makes it a very more well-rounded room.
All right, another article that you wrote. Did Deshaun Watson contract break the NFL quarterback market? Take us through that and kind of what you arrived at.
Well, basically, it was coming off the back of a whole bunch of league mouthpieces kind of blaming the Browns for Lamar Jackson's situation. And it was kind of just taking a deeper look into it about, what's really happening here. because everyone would lead you to believe that the Watson deal was the first of its kind, when in actuality, it's not. There's been several players that have guaranteed contracts. To start with Kirk Cousins, it just wasn't as large of a contract because Kirk wasn't a 26-year-old franchise quarterback coming into his prime and hitting the open market, so to speak. I mean, I know they traded for Watson, but as far as the deal itself, and it comes down to the Ravens just don't believe that Lamar's worth $230 million. He even came out just after that and said he didn't want a fully guaranteed deal. He wanted $230 million guaranteed. Well, the market is the market. Every time a quarterback gets signed, that number is going to go up. And then the deal, whatever deal you sign, is going to keep looking better and better. And I think we're all going to see it play out here when Burrow and Herbert, when they start to come to the table, you're going to see those numbers increase. And if the quarterbacks know their worth and they hold close to it, I think you're going to see more fully guaranteed deals for preeminent quarterbacks. I think that's where it has to start in the league, because they're trying to act like the Browns are the outlier for giving that deal, when in reality, the NFL is the outlier for being the only professional league that doesn't guarantee their contracts. Look at the NBA or Major League Baseball. That's common practice there. And the NFL has a much shorter shelf life with career and a much greater risk for injury if those contracts aren't guaranteed. So it's a process. And why Watson, his deal is the outlier right now, I think in 3 to 5 years that won't be the case.
I would agree with you on Watson. And the other thing about Lamar Jackson, I'd say, they waited too long. They clearly didn't believe enough in what he'd done. And if I'm Lamar Jackson, I'd be upset at that too.
Oh, yeah, it's every right to be, And like if he had came to the table 2 years ago and the Ravens would have given him enough to be happy, we're in a different landscape. But they didn't. They waited. Other deals got signed. That put them in this position. And the market's the market. We're going to see how it plays out when Burrow and Herbert, they're up next. We're going to see the deals they got, and we're going to see where Lamar should have slotted in, because now it's too late. And we're going, the rubber's met the road. They're going to have to play on the tag now if they play at all.
Casey Kinnamon from Dawg Pound Daily and I are going to step aside, take one more time out. Other side of the break, we'll take a look at some under-the-radar targets that are still out there for the Browns in free agency. Sports4CLE will be right back. Stay with us.
Come back to go forward. Back to learning new things. Back to pursuing your dreams. Tri-C has flexible learning options to fit your life. And every year, more than 1,000 local companies provide Tri-C students with real-world learning. The right education can boost your lifetime earning power by hundreds of thousands of dollars. Start now with a college education you can afford. Tri-C, where futures begin.
The Great Lakes Collectors Convention, presented by Greenie Sports Cards, takes over the Fieldhouse in Independence, Ohio, where the passions of sports fans, collectors, and sports talk enthusiasts collide. 50,000 square feet of ball card bliss. Hundreds of display tables. Card Shop Live Theater with interactive appearances from the region's most notable sports media. Great cards, great location, great show. Tickets on sale now at greeniesportscards.com.
The Ohio Lottery Partners in Education program recognizes role model students and teachers from across Ohio. Nominations can now be done completely online. To nominate a deserving teacher or student, go to ohiolottery.com. In the About section, find Partners in Education. There you will find links to the nomination forms. Students kindergarten through 12th grade can be academic all-stars. Teachers can be honored as a Teacher of the Month. The Ohio Lottery Partners in Education, where stars shine. We continue talking Browns with Casey Kinnamon from Dawg Pound Daily. Let's take a look. 5 under-the-radar free agents that are still on the market in the NFL. This is from BrownsWire.com. Number 1, running back Jerick McKinnon. Casey, all these guys, it's going to depend on the dollar figure. I like McKinnon. He again would bring a little bit different skill set than you have with Nick Chubb or Jerome Ford.
Well, he absolutely would. I like his skill set. It is something the Browns need to add to the room. The only question is, do they feel they want to pay the free agent price for that, or do they want to draft that? Because the running back class is really deep this year, and I think that they know they have to add something to that room through the draft. So my guess is that's the route they'll end up going. But if they were to get McKinnon on a one-year deal, that would definitely add to this offense, which already has a lot of weapons, So I wouldn't be opposed to adding McKinnon. Like you said, it all comes down to the dollar sign.
All right, so we're going to take a look at two defensive linemen now. Defensive tackle, Ashawn Robinson. I like him, but with the word that they're talking to Al Woods, that might be a duplicate there. And then edge rusher, Ben Banogu. Your thoughts on these two?
Well, Robinson, he was someone that I was high on coming into this process. But you're right. If they sign Big Al Woods, I don't see a room for Ashawn. But that'd be a very good fallback plan. I think they understand they have to sign another, though. And I think that's what you're seeing now. You're seeing them go through it, bringing Al Woods in. I really wish we'd hear something on that, because I'd like to put that position to bed and kind of move on. And I do think they need to go get another edge defender, whether that's Banogu or someone else. They have to do it. So I think they recognize where their needs still are. They need to fill that out before the draft, so they're not drafting out of desperation. They can just take the best player available.
And then two on the back half of the defense will round out the five that they're talking about. Ryan Neal was a casualty from Seahawks, cut late in the game in free agency. Then a safety / nickel back, Joshua Kalu. I think they've come out and said that they're not looking at Neal at the current time. If you can get a nickel back at a reasonable price, that might cure some ills.
Yeah, the Neal release was a surprise. They pulled his tender, and he definitely has the skill set they need. So I was surprised to hear that they just outright said they weren't interested, basically. But that price tag might be too much. And then you got someone like Kalu, who Schwartz has gone familiarity with, who can kind of do a versatile role playing nickel and safety. That could be someone you can see added to this roster. That's something else that they need, and they're probably going to add during the draft. But if you can go ahead and take care of that need now, then you can just draft, to fill the best player on the board. And then in the end, that's what this front office wants to do. So I'd be all in favor of adding Kalu.
All right, let's take a look at a 3-round mock draft Pro Football Focus did. So 2 picks in the 3rd round for the Browns. At 74, they have him going edge rusher from Ohio State, Zach Harrison. And then coming back at 98, they have the Browns taking a wide receiver, Jaden Reed, from Michigan State. So 2 Big Ten guys. Let's start with Harrison. Harrison's a guy that, he's intriguing because of his athleticism, but you really haven't seen what you want to see on the football field production-wise.
Yeah, the production is definitely lacking, but he's that former 5-star guy. Every single tool, height, weight, speed, good bend. If you were able to get someone like Harrison at 74 and you add him to that edge room with Miles, with Okoronkwo, with Wright, I think you start to get the making of a scary athletic group. So I'd be all in favor of adding Harrison at 74 if he's still on the board. But usually guys with those kind of tools, they don't make it that far when they're that talented. The only thing that would keep him on the board would be that lack of production.
Yeah, normally NFL coaches and front office think they can coach a guy that has the. I can't teach the skills. I can teach him how to use them. What about Reed? Reed's a guy that has been connected a couple places with the Browns.
Yeah, I actually have an article coming out tomorrow based on a conversation that we had about late round wide receivers. And he's the number 1 target for me if you can get to day 3. But he's also the hold your breath that he's still there. Because I could very easily see him go at the end of round 3 like they have him in this. He's pro ready. Now, he's not big, We're talking about someone who's 175 pounds. But he's open right now. He gets off the bus, he's open. He had guys in a blender at Senior Bowl. And he doesn't just get separation, he maintains separation. Really good body control. You can use him on gadget stuff. I really love his game. But I would prefer if they were able to get a different position right there. But if you took Jaden Reed, your room doesn't get worse. But also if you take Jaden Reed, all those guys who are on the outside looking in, you're just down 1 more of the pecking order because he's going to come in and take a spot.
Without question. All right, let's take a look at this. Every team's chance to make the playoffs based on odds from Caesars Sportsbook. And you see the graph. Browns are at about 45%, 15th best odds. I understand the, I don't know, lack of enthusiasm because the roster's been good the last couple of years and it just hasn't worked out. So I think it's okay, show me before I'm willing to say, yeah, you're a playoff team.
I think 45% is fair. If you're just basing on what you saw in those final 6 games, they were 3-3. It's basically been like you said, they've had the talent. It's been like a failure to launch scenario, and they were just kind of middling. So that's where you would put them. But out of all teams in the NFL, when you look at like the greatest variance, it has to be the Browns. Because if it clicks with Watson, this team is scary. If you just look across the board objectively, then take your Browns goggles off and just look, and you got a top 3 to 5 offensive line, a tight end who should be right around that top 5 mark, a scary wide receiver room. You have Nick Chubb. If it clicks for Watson, this isn't just good, this is scary. But if it kind of continued, if we saw what we saw at the end of the season, it's just going to be that hovering around 500, might it be good to maybe snag a wild card spot? Maybe, but more likely you'd be on the outside of the bubble. So I think 45 is fair. I'll take it. But just know that the variance is huge. This could go bad or it could go great, and no one knows, including everyone making these odds.
And really, the key to it is going to be how well Kevin Stefanski and Deshaun Watson can work together to make this offense his. This offense has to be Deshaun Watson's offense. It can't be Kevin Stefanski's offense. If it's Deshaun Watson's offense, the Browns are going to be a scary offensive unit.
Yeah, if they're able to do that, sky's the limit. I mean, they have the talent in place at all other positions. If it clicks for Watson and he's able to just regain to what he was, not even get better, just regain, then this is a 11-12 win team. I mean, there's no other way around it. He's able just to get to that level with the pieces he has around him. But if he struggles, they'll probably still win 8-9 games just because of where they've gotten the roster to. Now, this is all barring injury, which it's like that for every single team. But no other team has as big of a question mark with their quarterback where it could be sky high or it could nosedive, and that's just where the Browns are at right now.
Casey Kinnamon, as always, great stuff. Appreciate the time and the insight. Thanks very much, Casey.
Hey, anytime. Thanks for having me.
Casey Kinnamon, make sure you check him out. Dawg Pound Daily, always really good and insightful Browns coverage. We're going to step aside, take a quick time out. Sports4CLE will be right back. Stay with us.
Come back to go forward. Back to learning new things. Back to pursuing your dreams. Tri-C has flexible learning options to fit your life. And every year, more than 1,000 local companies provide Tri-C students with real-world learning. The right education can boost your lifetime earning power by hundreds of thousands of dollars. Start now with a college education you can afford. Tri-C, where futures begin.
Sports4CLE continues. We turn our attention to a big event coming up April 14th through the 16th, the Great Lakes Collectors Convention presented by Greeny Sports Cards. And we're pleased to be joined by Steve Greenberg, Greeny Sports Cards, Jeremy Levine, who will be promoting the event as well. And guys, tell me about what this is exactly. As I understand it, something that really hasn't been done before. We will be out there. Sports4CLE will have a presence, as will a lot of sports talk people. Jeremy, start with, what's the event?
Sure. Thanks for having us here to talk about this really unique experiential event that hasn't been done before, certainly in this market or really anywhere else, as we can tell. We've got a 50,000 square foot venue that'll be filled with sports and memorabilia, collections and dealers and all that nostalgia, paired with an experiential live stage, the Card Shop Live Stage, that will feature some of the most notable personalities and media people in the region, interacting live on stage and with each other, and we'll have an interactive area with inflatables and Pop-A-Shots and activities for kids, and really all of this culminates in one space. So the place where sports fans and sports collectors and sports talk enthusiasts collide.
And Steve, you have done a number of card shows. This kind of is blowing it out. Tell us what will be there from a card collector's standpoint.
Yeah, sure. Like you said, we've been doing these locally for 15 years, and we've just gotten bigger and bigger to the point where we decided to make this 50,000 square foot. And there will be a number of baseball cards, sports cards in general. Well, there'll be some non-sport. There'll probably be some Pokemon stuff for the kids. But yeah, I mean, the genres of different years of baseball cards, you know, from early on till the brand new cards. There'll be packs for people to open. There'll be cases. They'll be doing live case breaks, box breaks. I mean, it's going to be just a totally different show that you don't normally see here in Northeast Ohio.
How did this come about? How did you guys come up with this crazy idea? It's at the Independence Fieldhouse by Independence High School as well. That's the 50,000 foot facility that we're talking about. Take us through kind of the evolution of this.
Yeah, so, you know, again, 15 years of doing local shows, 40 tables, 100 tables. And, you know, every couple of years, the big National Sports Collectors Convention comes to Cleveland. Jeremy's very familiar with that, being at the IX Center for 15 years, and Jeremy and I growing up together. You know, a couple years ago, we had a phone call, and we're like, you know, the National hasn't been here for a couple years. You know, let's talk about doing something larger. And, you know, COVID happened, put that on the back burner. But we kept in contact, you know, just, you know, being friends for 40 years. That, you know, when COVID ended and, you know, shows and things started happening, this just whirlwind. And we found the perfect location in Independence, halfway between Cleveland and Akron. It's a basketball facility. The floor is great. And it's just the perfect setup. And with Jeremy, with bringing the show knowledge on how to do in the presentation, and me with bringing the vendors in, it was just a perfect marriage.
And we will be taping one of our shows, Sports4CLE, out there. Jeremy, take us through kind of what people will experience, because that's kind of the unique thing about this. It's card show or sports talk, and some other things are happening.
Yeah, absolutely. So, you know, you'll walk in. It's a really family-friendly event where you'll walk in and the doors will open and you'll see, you know, hundreds of tables of these collections and dealers and vendors and row upon row of table. But the centerpiece of this will be the Card Shop Live Theater, and it'll really be a peek behind the curtain of shows like this and media presentations where people don't get access to that and on a daily basis. But these are all personalities that, especially in Northeast Ohio, that people listen to and watch and experience every day, up and down the dial, across all stations. And we're excited to present that in one stage. So you'll see that. You'll have a random mascot sighting. You'll have the opportunity with some of our interactive participants. We've got the Cleveland Crunch and the Lake County Captains and Cleveland Charge and Cleveland Monsters and some other university participation. This will be an opportunity for kids to kick a soccer ball with a professional soccer player and then go over to the theater and see an interview and kind of a live taping of a show and production. And it's just, if you're a sports fan, you're going to feel it when you walk in the room. You're going to see things you've never really experienced before in the same space. And you know, our hope is people walk out of there saying, wow, that was really neat. It was unique, and we can't wait to do it again next year.
Greeny, when Jeremy kind of hit you with this, what was your reaction as a guy that does hundreds of these?
Absolutely. It was something where we thought of together, quite frankly. You know, it was no, hey, should we do this? Should we do that? It was like, why aren't we doing this yet? You know, and bringing it together with his background, with bringing all the different guests in the media, and me bringing all the dealers. I mean, it just seemed like absolutely we have to do this.
Again, give us some of the nuts and bolts. So, what's it cost to get in? Dates, times, and those kind of things. And we'll have this throughout the show, and you will be able to know when this is going on. We will be out there again taping the show. But take us through the nuts and bolts of it.
So Friday night, 6 to 8 p.m. is going to be a VIP entrance where it's $15, but you also get tickets to come in Saturday and Sunday. Random days, it's going to be $5 admission, which we wanted to keep the price low so that people can come and have fun with their families, right? So there's free parking on site. There's going to be food trucks there, you know, so they will be able to eat. There's going to be ice cream. There's going to be sports fanfare, hot dogs, hamburgers, and I mean, there's no reason to not be able to come.
Well, guys, again, it's the 14th through the 16th of April, Independence Fieldhouse, right by Independence High School. We will be there. Looking forward to it. Steve, Jeremy, thanks so much for the time. Appreciate it very much.
Thanks for having us. It's terrific.
All right, that's going to do it for this edition of Sports for CLE. We will see you back here tomorrow at 4 o'clock. Have a great night, everybody. We'll see you tomorrow at 4 on Sports for CLE.